Good people, welcome to the latest episode of Jonathan Thinks. I am Jonathan Collins, your friendly neighborhood democracy scholar. I've got a few things on my mind, and maybe, just maybe, you've been thinking about them too. The first thing on my mind is how we need new leadership. It is time for a leadership transition here in the United States, and especially in the Black community. Now, it's the Jim Clyburn story that has me thinking about this in particular. So if you've been following the news, you saw this story about Jim Clyburn. He is a Black member of Congress representing a district in South Carolina. He's been in Congress for years. Now, Jim Clyburn has been a very important member of Congress, right? Like he has, especially recently, he spearheaded the move to change the order of primary voting so that South Carolina becomes one of the first states during the primary race. And doing so because South Carolina has such a large, especially the Charleston area, but South Carolina has such a large African-American population that it makes candidates that are either Black and or, pushing and advocating for Black issues, this makes their candidacy significantly more viable. And this is a function of the political work done behind the scenes by Jim Clyburn. So I'm not here to dismiss his contributions. I'm also not here to dismiss him because this would be his 18th term, I repeat, 18th term in Congress, and that, he's a bit long in the tooth. I don't even have an issue with him being old. My issue is I think he's out of touch. And I think we need more members of Congress, especially Black leaders who are in touch with Black folks and the concerns that we carry on a day-to-day basis. Now, I'll tell a story that I think really gets at what I'm thinking about here. And so it's hard to tell this without, going back and looking and thinking about the first time I met in person a member of Congress. And it was when I was in Atlanta. I was a college student. I needed to go to Lenox Mall in Buckhead to just buy a shirt. I had an event coming up I wanted to look nice for. So I jet to Buckhead to buy a shirt, and while I'm in the mall, I run into this member of Congress. I was like, oh, is this going to be a don't meet your heroes moment? Like, he's probably just going to blow me off. But against that judgment, I went over, introduced myself. Hey, member, I'm Jonathan Collins. It's a pleasure to meet you. I'm a student at Morehouse, and I'm really, I appreciate your leadership, and I'm, grateful for your service. And then he's like, well, hey, young man, and I see you wearing a Mellon Mays shirt. I was wearing a Mellon Mays undergraduate fellowship shirt. And he's asking me now, he's like, oh, I know that Mellon fellows, like they do research. So what kind of research are you doing? And what do you want to do with that? And, what kind of career are you interested in? And so we ended up having this whole conversation, and he ends the conversation by, letting me know that if there's anything his office can do for me, just let him know. But the conversation, you would have thought that the important person was me and not the member of Congress I was speaking to. He made a really, really small person feel tall. He made me feel like I mattered. He really made me feel like I was important. And that person was John Lewis, the late, great John Lewis. Fast forward a couple of years later, well, more than a couple of years, maybe 4 or 5 years later, I'm in LA. I'm a PhD student at UCLA, and I hear about this event that was happening in the Crenshaw district. Go down there. There's a member of Congress who just wrote a book, and they're having a fireside chat kind of thing where folks can come, listen to the member, talk about some of the main stories and themes from the book, and then you can purchase the book, which I didn't have a lot of money at the time. So purchasing the book was a thing. And so you could purchase the book, and then you could line up and then have the book signed by the member of Congress. So I purchased the book. I got in this long line. I waited to get to the front to have the member sign my book, hand him the book. He signs it. And then I also do a similar thing as when I was in Atlanta. I said, hey, it's a pleasure to meet you. Thank you for, the service that you've done and for paving the way and just paying homage, showing respect to, a Black political elder. And he just kind of takes the book, he signs it. Yeah, it's nice to meet you too. Yeah. Hands me the book, blows me off, on to the next person. And that person was Jim Clyburn. And then I watched Jim Clyburn continue to do this to other folks who waited in line. And then I watched him later grin ear to ear, smiling, taking photos with the political elites, with the elected officials who showed up to the event. And they were arm in arm and smiling and happy and joking. And I realized, like, oh, these are his peers. These are the people that he feels connected to. These are the people he feels comfortable around, not people like me. And so that's my issue with Jim Clyburn. It's not that he's old. I think he's out of touch. Jim Clyburn got his start by actually speaking out against the Orangeburg massacre. It was a police shooting that happened on the campus of South Carolina State University. He was so vocal about this that he ends up getting appointed to the South Carolina Human Rights Commission and becomes one of the biggest advocates during the 1970s, early 1970s, around racialized violence against black folks. That was his moment. That was his time. That's when he was really, really tapped in. But those days are long gone, and he hasn't been responsive to the more current needs of black folks in America. So I think it's time for a new breed of leadership. I think it's time for a new guard. So if you're in South Carolina and you're interested in running for Congress and challenging Jim Clyburn, you might have a supporter in me, because I think it's time for him to pack it up. We need new black leadership that is more in touch with our needs and concerns. But that's what I think. I want to know what you think. What do you think about Jim Clyburn? Let me know in the comments. Do you think he should pack it up? Do you think I'm being too harsh? Maybe he needs to stay. What do you think about black political leadership as a whole? Are there more folks who need to move on? What are your thoughts too on how we can cultivate the next generation of leaders, right? What can we do to support the new rising generation of black leaders so that they can now have the platform and have the spotlight? But speaking of a platform, there is a platform that should actually be taken away. And that platform is basically all the social media accounts for the White House, as long as Donald Trump is the president, because what we just saw recently was absurd. There's no other way to put this than what we saw was absurd. So I'll play a little bit of a clip.
Strike to claim it, a strike to claim it, and he got it! Here comes the heat from the USA! Boom! Pins down, what a strike! That's right! Who do you think you are?
So here is the Trump administration once again making a mockery of people. And this time they're making a mockery of the airstrikes that the U.S. has been sending to Iran. Now, the U.S. has now sent well over 100 airstrikes over to Iran. They've hit, combined with Israel, 15,000 targets in Iran, including a school of small children, a school that was hit because of apparently outdated information. Now, I'm a parent, and these kinds of stories in particular break my heart, because when you're a parent and you drop your kid off at school, the one thing you want is for them to be safe. To me, learning is a bonus compared to safety. Like, I just want my kids to be safe. And my worst nightmare is getting a phone call that something has gone wrong. And so I get it that Iran is a political adversary of ours right now because of this conflict, but there is no place for that kind of vile act. And there's definitely no place for this kind of social media victory lap mockery of a country where kids are being decimated. This is absurd. This is egregious. And yes, foreign conflict, foreign strikes can be initiated by the presidency, but war has to be declared by Congress. And I think it's important for us to make sure that we are holding Congress accountable for the lack of action that they are taking on placing constraint on a president who would do this. It's one thing to act in the interest of American safety, and we can debate that. What is not debatable to me is the indignity and just how pure evil it is to bomb a school of little children. We can't live in a country that condones that. At some point we have to draw the line, and I hope we do it quickly, because again, we need leadership that makes us feel tall and not small. And when you're bombing innocent civilians, children, not only are you making ordinary folks feel small, you're making ordinary folks essentially fodder. You're devaluing them. You're saying that they literally do not matter, that it's fine to just wipe them off the face of the earth. And we can't accept that. We cannot accept that. And speaking of things that we cannot accept, we should also be denouncing everything that the Trump administration told us about DOGE, the Department of Governmental Efficiency. So this was this government agency that just popped up ad hoc that Donald Trump essentially empowered Elon Musk to be able to run. And they told us that, well, the U.S. national debt is way too high and federal spending is way too high and we got to slash and cut because we need more efficiency and less wasteful spending. All right, cool. But we look up, and because of especially Trump's DEI executive order or anti-DEI executive order, turns out, to no surprise, a lot of what was being slashed were research grants that they decided were DEI related. So a couple of the former employees for DOGE were recently participating in a deposition where they had to actually account for like why they were making a lot of the decisions that they were making. And I'll show you, play a clip for you.
American LGBTQ or an immigrant, the dynamics, reasoning, and strength behind serving a country that does not always serve you in return. Did I read that correctly?
Yes.
You and Mr. Fox identified this as one of the craziest grants at NEH?
Yes, it appears so.
Why did you do that?
Because it explicitly says LGBTQ.
Do you have any history in, like, let's say, scholarly peer review?
No.
Okay. So, but this judgment call was made by you and your personal judgment combined with Justin's personal judgment to cancel grants based on DEI.
Yes.
Okay.
Right? So no use of expertise. There was nothing about this that was done in the name of making a smart decision. This was literally just putting language through ChatGPT and allowing AI to make recommendations on projects that fit within the parameters of what they were using to make these slashes. And ultimately, it just said, look, if it has LGBTQ in it, if it has feminism in it, if it has any one of these liberal buzzwords, we're cutting it. We don't care about its contribution. We don't care if this helps veterans. We don't care if this helps kids. We don't care what contribution that this research will make to society. If it has the liberal buzzwords, we're cutting it. What are we doing here? What are we doing here? What are we doing here? Could you imagine if decisions that impacted your livelihood were made by folks who had no expert knowledge of the thing that affects your livelihood, and that they were so clearly politically motivated in their decision to remove said thing that affects your livelihood just because they politically disagree with you? That's literally the only explanation that they have. This is like if a Democratic president said, look, well, I know that rural white folks don't vote for me, so I'm going to ban anything that even seems to remotely help rural white people. That would be absurd. That would be absurd, and that would be grounds for a president to be impeached. We would say this person is not fit to lead. That's what's happening right now. Absurd. Again, it's very simple. What does a good leader do? Make the small feel tall. Not the small people you like. Make the small feel tall, regardless of their positionality to you. So as this DOGE mess continues to unravel, keep an eye out on it. And again, hold the president accountable to this foolishness. And speaking of foolishness, last thing I want to say. So recently, I got to talk about this Atlanta Hawks story. So the Atlanta Hawks were going to allow for a sponsorship night in the arena. This is Atlanta Hawks NBA team. They were going to allow for a sponsorship night, a promotion in combination with Magic City, the adult gentlemen's club. Less colloquially, I will say, or more colloquially, I will say, basically they had a partnership with the strip club and they were doing a promotion for a strip club. And this is obviously absurd. But it was actually going to happen. They were going to sell merchandise, hoodies that say Magic City. There were going to be little 12-year-old kids in the arena stands with hoodies that say Magic City. Fortunately, the NBA stepped in, and a few days before the promotional night was supposed to happen, they canceled it. They shut it down. But I've been seeing all you people online who are caping up for this and making it seem like it's crazy that the NBA would put a stop to this. That like the audacity to prevent an NBA team from promoting a strip club, the outrage that this apparently generated. Have we lost our minds? Are we crazy? Now I get it. Now people are saying this is the same league that promotes gambling nonstop, promotes alcohol nonstop. Apparently the Hawks this past week also had a promotional night for Crown Royal. So sure, there's elements of hypocrisy. But what's more disturbing to me is also the justification for a promotion with Magic City being okay. It's about the food and the chicken wings. It's women empowerment. To me, it's very simple. If you send your kids to a school and you found out that the teacher and the principal had a plan to take your kids on a field trip to Magic City to a strip club, would you as a parent sign that permission slip? No, you would think that was correct. You would probably pull your kid away from that school. This is absurd. Like exposing kids to adults who gamble, exposing kids to adults who drink alcohol, to me is still significantly different than exposing kids to nudity and sexuality. Let me get this straight. We don't think it's okay to talk to kids about pronouns. We have a problem with talking about sexuality in a way that actually connects to the livelihood of people, of LGBTQ folks who are actually bullied and harassed because of this and politically targeted. But it's okay to talk about sexuality when it's perverted men throwing money at women. This is absurd. This is ridiculous. We've lost the plot if we think that this is okay. Ultimately, we can't stop taking cultural credit for things that are inherently flawed. And you can talk to me about how strip clubs are about women empowerment, but I want to talk to you about how strip clubs also enable sexual perversion, how it enables creepy, horny dudes to go hang out and have an atmosphere that no kid should have the message sent that this is okay. Look, I'm not a strip club person, so I'm biased here. I lived in Atlanta for 4 years when I went to Morehouse. I've never been to Magic City. So maybe I'm just the wrong messenger on this. But the message that I do have is that this is crazy. No, we should not be marketing a strip club. If you notice the background in the last episode, it's different because I was at home. I went back home to Jackson. Shout out to my family in Jackson, Tennessee. It was great to see everybody and all the support. Thank you for folks who are watching the show, consuming the content. And I got to talk to my dad about this, and it was just like, this is crazy. This is absurd. This is ridiculous. This makes no sense. And at some point, we can't, going back to the Cam Newton issue, we can't let our desire to be more open to all aspects of Black culture blind us from the fact that there are parts of our culture that we do have to be very careful with. And to me, Magic City, the strip clubs, that's wonderful. But that's what I think. I want to know what you think. What do you think about strip club culture and its integration into Black culture? What do you think about the Hawks kind of trying to cement itself as what my friend Daoud calls Black America's team through this partnership with Magic City and strip clubs? I want to know what you think. My wife and I, we had a great conversation about this. I think we both agreed of the absurdity, but she was also pointing out to me a lot of the hypocrisy of the league. So it's a topic that I think we should be talking about because we're going to continue to see this be an issue more and more into the future. But that, good people, concludes this episode of Jonathan Thinks. Again, I am Jonathan Collins, your neighborhood democracy scholar. Thank you to my producer, Mo, who's working behind the scenes. Remember that every time we convene, it's an opportunity to grow. We do it with love, we do it with joy, and we do it together. These were a few of my thoughts, and who knows, maybe, just maybe, you were thinking about it too. In fact, let us know what you're thinking. Again, hit the comments, let us know, hit me up. Twitter, Instagram, y'all know me. I want to know what you think about these issues. So hit me up. I want to know if what I'm thinking is what you're thinking. Jonathan thinks, the community thinks, we all think together. But that is this week's episode. Peace.